6:30, so to speak. I want to apologize. I think all of our committee members are in here, or at least the vast majority. The email that I sent out yesterday with the agenda and the reminder about the meeting did not get to you. It's sent from me and went to the great server in the sky and hung out a little bit and then went poof. And so my apologies for that. And my thanks to those people who said, I never got an email, because then we were able to troubleshoot it this morning. I just got an email from Mary Kay that she will not be here. Apparently there is a gas line emergency at one of her branches, so she may show up later, and hopefully everything is fine with her. I think we are still waiting for, oh, I see Monica. Sorry, Monica. I'm pretty sure I clicked to let you in and paid no mind to who you are, which means I'm not a good gatekeeper.
It's all good. I know you got other things going on.
I do, but nothing that's more important than you are.
Oh, I appreciate that. So most of us are here. Does anybody see who's anybody missing except for Mary Kay?
I think Kayla is here. I think that everybody else is here.
Hey, Monica or Ruth, if I could just read off all of the members' names, and if you just say that you're here or what library you're from, that might be an easier way to do.
Yeah, and I'm not sure.
We'll do that after we call the meeting to order.
Okay, so, sure.
I'm not sure if Susan Jones was planning to be here, or if she has already retired. So,
okay.
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Okay, well, then let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. It is 2:01. I'm sorry, 10:01. Something like that. And we will start with the roll call, Sandra.
Okay, so Monica Boyer.
Here.
Anita Brown.
Here.
Britta Dorsey.
Present.
And Mary Kay's not here. Josephine Kaiser.
Here.
Jocelyn Lewis.
Yo.
Kayla Morris.
Here.
Sandra Osborne, I am here. Jennifer Steffi.
Jennifer is here.
Oh, she's here.
She's in chat, yep.
Okay. Lauren McPike.
Here.
And Christy Witten. Oh, Christy's here in chat. And that's all the members. And then Ruth Frazier is here. Lynn Floyd.
Is not here according to chat.
Not here.
And Keith needs to be added to your roll call as well.
Okay,
Sandra.
Keith, okay. And if you are a guest and you want to put your name and what library you're from, I will try to make sure you're in the minutes.
And just put that, yeah, there we go. Thank you, Amy.
And Gisela is here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you, Sandra. And those of you who are visiting, thank you for attending and putting your information in the chat for us, or for Sandra. So we can move on to the approval of the agenda. Has everyone looked over the agenda? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Do you care that I'm not on there again for conjoined parts? Did you think you were going to be too busy today?
You know what? I
can't wait to hear this.
I think that I forgot about that till after I sent agenda items to Ruth. We can add that.
We can add that right now.
What?
We could add it right now.
But we do have quite a few things to
talk
about today, and I didn't know how long our meeting was.
When I saw the agenda, I thought, I know why I was cut. I get it.
No, it was my faulty memory, not. But if you want to do that today, we can definitely add you to the agenda.
No problem. I don't care.
Okay.
I have
So
notes
there-
and I have notes and everything, but I don't care. Why would I care? I don't care.
There will be some more information, Anita, that may be helpful for you going through here in the state library report. Just saying, I don't want to like get ahead of, since we're not to the state library report though. But a
Anita,
possibility to
I-
talk about conjoined parts.
Anita, I will say that Ruth recommended something else for the agenda, and I suggested that we put it off till next time because we had so much, and I was afraid we're going to table some of this because we have so much to discuss.
I agree. I agree.
So make sure that if it's not on when the agenda for June comes out, email me and I
Okay.
will make sure it's on there.
Is
That's
there a
fine.
possibility to add, Monica, it to, this is a great sentence, I apologize for all of that, to the agenda for today with the idea that we're going to table it so that it shows up for old business next time? Would that be appropriate?
I don't know if that's appropriate or not, but we can.
What say ye, committee members?
I don't see why not. If it helps us remember to talk about it.
I can remind her next time the agenda comes out. If you, I mean, I don't care that it's not on there.
Okay,
It's just revolutionized my life. It may not impact yours at all.
Well, if we make a note of it in the minutes, then it'll be in the minutes. So when we get the minutes from this meeting, we'll have it as a reminder for next time.
yeah, Sandra.
If you
Oh,
haven't
face that,
totally,
Sandra.
if you haven't totally changed my life down there at the state library on conjoined items. So let's see what you guys have changed down there.
We haven't changed anything. I was just going to tell you a thing. That's it.
Okay, so all that said, do we have a motion to approve the agenda as is?
Britta will motion to approve as is.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor of approving the agenda as is? Say
Aye.
aye.
I'm sorry, who seconded?
Oh, that was Lauren.
Lauren, okay.
Any opposed? Okay, so the agenda has passed. And Anita, just keep me posted in case I forget.
Sure, will do.
Okay.
I'll make sure I put it in bold in the minutes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Next
in a
time.
different font, underlined and
In red.
italicized.
As you can tell, Sandra, from the email I sent you the other day, apparently I don't read them
Yeah.
anyway, so.
Okay.
But everybody else will remember. Okay, so how about the minutes? Has everyone looked through the minutes? Does anyone have any comments, corrections?
There was an end quote that needed to be added from the undocumented immigrants. Should be an end quote.
Yeah.
Anything else? If nothing else, does anybody have, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from the December meeting?
I'll motion.
Second?
Jennifer Steffi seconds.
Pardon, I'm adding some punctuation. I hope that that's appropriate while you're voting.
All those in favor of approving the December of 2020 minutes, say aye.
I
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes have passed, which brings us to the Indiana State Library report, which Ruth is all about telling us, apparently.
Super about telling you. Actually, there's only a couple of things, and it goes right into the training report, if that's all right, since they are
Sure.
consecutive in there. Okay. So the first thing is that Sheridan will be coming live on the 16th of March. They are cataloging in. Currently, they are right just shy of 24,000 items that they've cataloged into Evergreen. Their goal is 25,000. there will be a cataloging party on the 12th of March, which is a Friday, from 9 until 6 at Sheridan Public Library. If you want to participate, we've had 6 volunteers so far to show up. Most of them are bringing their own stuff. We did get some new barcode scanners here centrally that we can now, that are the property of Evergreen, Indiana, that we can take to the cataloging parties. And so we're hoping to actually get them pretty far over that that 25,000 mark with the work that they're doing and what we can help them with. My goal would be to see about 12 to 1,600 items done that day, which is not outside the realm. I know that that's a pretty optimistic thing, but we did see something similar to that the last time, if we're talking proportions, with the people that showed up for their last cataloging party. The other thing that has been going on is this is related to getting the records for Rushville's Overdrive stuff into the Evergreen catalog, and there have been some hiccups with it. Bob is trying to load 1,000 of those records at a time. Apparently that means he's able to, when it's successful, load 994 records. No clue what's up with those other 6, but it's consistently 994. And so he is, I believe, like 3/5 of the way through with that project and trying to get it done by the end of the week. There have been some, I'm going to call them load issues, but I'm not entirely sure that that's exactly what it is, with the reporter that have impacted his ability to get those records batch loaded. It may be the size of the batch, being about that those 1,000 record batches. I'm not entirely sure. So, but that is ongoing. Then the other thing that I was talking about earlier is I do have on our Zoom schedule, not yet on the calendar, one of the things that we are changing up a little bit as far as training goes, or adding to. So one of the things that we'll be doing for 2021 is adding in interest groups. And one of them is a cataloging interest group. The first one will be on, let me try not to like make you look at my calendar, but also give you information from my calendar. On April the 1st at 10 a.m. And what that will be is similar to, we had done cataloging circles in the summer, fall of 2020. And it will be similar to that, but ongoing. For cataloging, we're going to do monthly, except for when there is actually a cataloging committee meeting, because we don't want to conflict with that. But now I have moved everything around on the screen and can't see what I want to see. There we go. So meaning that we'll have, oh, I'm going to do bad math here. In a calendar year, we'll have 4 cataloging committee meetings, and then we'll have 8 interest group meetings. So they'll fall on the others. So each of those interest groups will have a focused topic similar to what the cataloging circles were, and then time for discussion. And all that to say, I think that that would be a lovely time to bring those conjoined items out and talk to Evergreen, Indiana catalogers about how you're using those, Anita, and then have conversation. Not to say that that's not appropriate for the committee meeting, of course it is, but that may be another time to really promote the use of them if you're interested in that. And there's probably more training updates. I'm going to be getting the normal basic cataloging and advanced cataloging up on the calendar for April. And also going through, and I have all of the LAU certificates out there and have managed all of the requests for Cat 1 permission upgrades or expiration of accounts, but need to go in and do a complete audit of those things that kind of fell off in the interim time. So if you or someone you know has taken a class and it's not reflected in their Cat 1 account yet, it is not because it's been forgotten. It's something that I will actually be working on today to go in and update all of those records. But all the LEUs have all gone out as of now. So if there is someone who hasn't received them, it would be appropriate to email me and say, what the heck? Or can I please have whatever? And that's what I have.
Ruth,
Mhm.
the Rushville Overdrive records.
Mhm.
I for some reason I was thinking Rushville maybe was part of the Indiana Digital Consortium, or are they a new consortium?
No,
or-
they are, but they are bringing records with them from, I want to say, is it Access 360? Somehow they were able to negotiate a way to bring in records that they had in a previous platform. And so, yes, I
And
was
will
not,
those, if they were available in previous platform, will they? Are
they're
they
available
going
to
be-
the consortium.
They're available to the Overdrive Consortium.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes, I was not party to any of those negotiations or anything, so I'm
Right.
not sure of the details. It's not from previous Overdrive though. It may be somehow related to the whole recorded books acquisition by Overdrive and then them coming on as an EIDC member and all these things kind of coinciding.
Okay. So will there be an announcement when those are all uploaded, or no?
No.
Okay, that's fine. Just wondered.
I mean, I guess there could be. I'm not entirely
Well, we
sure
never
what
do
it would
it when,
consist of that.
yeah, we never do it when Bob loads other records. It's just whenever he gets them in.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm not sure what type of licenses they have either. So
Well,
It
that's
sounds
what I
kind of
was.
sketchy.
That's what I
well,
was wondering, because I mean, I purchase things. I'm in the EIDC as well,
Mhm.
and when I purchase things, it tells me how many copies we already have. But I wonder if Rushville's from this other platform is going to be counted in that number.
I could not give you details on that, but it would
I didn't
probably be,
expect you to.
it may be appropriate to contact Matthew Stevenson.
That's true.
And not that he would necessarily know, but as our liaison, he would be the one to find out, I guess.
So as a selector, and whether I should contact Matthew or not. So some of those records are probably already in the Overdrive catalog.
They are.
Okay.
Some of them are.
Okay. Okay.
And I would say probably 15 to 18,000 of them.
Okay.
So that said, I don't know the age of those and if they really matter a whole lot.
Yeah, are they maybe public domain stuff?
No clue.
Yeah.
Partially, yes, but it's also stuff that they were collecting previously as a standalone library for their ebook collection. So, which is no longer documented on their website because now they are an EIDC member. So it's.
Sounds like a nightmare.
I mean, depends on your definition of a nightmare. I have varying levels, but it's complex
Yeah.
and may cause some anxiety at times.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments for Ruth, the state library report or training reports? Before we move on to new business or unfinished business? Okay, thank you, Ruth. But you get to do the first thing under unfinished
Okay.
business, so.
So I don't remember who set this up. I believe it was Britta. Britta, you set this spreadsheet up and whoever,
Ma'am.
else, thank you. And so people have signed up. We have a few chapters that have not been claimed yet. I obviously have not put my name on here yet because I was waiting until Keith came on board, and Keith is on board. So I will be looking at this as well. I looks like we don't have any of the Zool Runner chapters that have not been claimed. So thank you to all of you who looked at the really old stuff to get that updated. I appreciate that. Once these are updated or in a state to be updated, there in the minutes it's reflected. I talked about getting those all in one continuous document. That will be when I start moving. I don't want to move old information over there when we're all in the process of updating, because it will just be updating it twice. So that's what I have for that. More conversation with anyone?
I personally know that I haven't started mine. So I'm hoping that we all can work on that in the next 3 months, and maybe we can have some of that done. Maybe not everything, but hopefully a lot of it done by June.
Would it be appropriate to set that as a deadline, knowing that there are things that happen and sometimes we have to miss deadlines, but to have that as an endpoint? I know some people are
I think that's a good idea.
motivated by having just a date there.
Yeah, we're not gonna like kick you out if you don't get it done,
No,
but you better have a good excuse.
yeah, super good, or entertaining, one or the other. What do you think, Monica? Can we say that by the next cataloging committee meeting to have a significant portion of?
Yeah, I would say for us, for each people who have volunteered for certain chapters, for us to hopefully be done or mostly done with our chapters by then. Since we don't have all of them claimed, I hate to say, well, our goal is to have it all done by June, because not all of them have even been claimed yet.
Oh, I'm going to claim the rest of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just haven't actually like put my name in there as of today. Thank you, Keith. Is the
So
link to
yes.
manual in the agenda? So what I have done, Jennifer, and is that if you signed up for something, and there may be some that I haven't, I have actually given you direct access to edit those chapters that you signed up for, because I have moved them all into draft folder. So the ones that you're actually editing are not the live ones that people look at. You're editing a draft that can go, and let me pop in there real quick, and you can hopefully make sure you're actually seeing what I'm showing. Yes, you are. Fantastic. I don't think I'm going in the right place. Let's try this one. No. This is me trying to navigate really quickly through here.
I do the exact same thing.
My apologies. And this is also actually looking at Anna's cataloging manual. So this 3.4 version, these are all drafts right now. None of these are actually linked to the website, there are, like all of these other things, everything is linked differently right now. So 3.4 though is if you have not received, if you have signed up to do a chapter and you have not received a link to edit it, let me know and I'll go through there again and I'll do an audit of those to make sure they're shared with the appropriate people. I'll do that this afternoon, actually after this meeting, since I'll be in there and also working on it my own self. So I wanted to get all of these things actually in one central location because they were not all in one central location previously. One thing that I will say is that we will be looking at an upgrade in 2021 to the software again to 3.6. And with 3.6, one of the things that becomes more important and also more fleshed out, depending on how you say that, is the staff catalog, the new staff catalog in there. And so there is added functionality to that, and it becomes then the default staff catalog as opposed to the traditional one that is there that is essentially exactly the same as the OPAC. So my thought is that if we can very seriously have June as the deadline to get as much as possible updated so that that is all there. And then the next time that we look at this manual, we're looking very purposefully at the staff catalog because there's going to be new documentation, not just the updating of old documentation. So I don't know if I'm missing saying something. Those are my thoughts.
Sounds like you covered everything to me.
Okay.
So moving on, we get to discuss parts again. And we were supposed to have done this via email before our December meeting, and we didn't. We've done a little bit of discussion since our December meeting via email, which I have pulled. I have some of those comments pulled up. I don't know if anybody has thoughts or if we want to, I did not write proposed language for additions to the procedures guide. I don't know if we want to do that now or if we want to have someone write those in the next few weeks or so, and then we can maybe approve them by email, discuss and approve by email. What do you guys think?
Was there a immediate need for this? I can't remember what brought this up. I mean, parts are expanding all the time. What brought this up last time? Is there an immediate need that we should work on this more quickly?
Well, we were talking about things with multiple formats and how to write parts for them. And I personally know that as we've been going through our collection to add parts since that decision was made last summer or whatever, I'm keeping a list of problem items because I don't know how I should be naming the parts. And I think that maybe some other libraries are running into that. No, it's probably not immediately urgent because it is rare. We've covered most of the things.
Do you have some of the, one or two of those problem items there with you or that you can refer to?
Yeah, give me a second. Hold on one second. Now I gotta look through my Google Drive and see about finding the.
At least you're not doing it on screen.
That's right.
I can share your screen though if you like.
Not right now, thank you.
Okay. Jennifer says in chat, I think a list is the best place to start. The goal is just to make the parts for these problems uniform, correct? Yeah, I would tend to agree with that.
Yeah, Jennifer, I think that we want to make them uniform. I think that personally, I think that when we started adding parts to movies and other formats, we said, this is how you do it for this type of item. And so we have specific examples in the catalog or in the procedures guide, but there are other weird examples that are rarer. So then I wonder whether we prescribe in the procedures guide how to deal with every single thing, or if we just put the most common things in the procedure guide and then add a comment, a section about just adding logical part names when you come to something that is a little unusual.
Yeah, I tend to go more towards the last thing that you described, rather than being overly prescriptive, because as you say, they're often rare. An example that comes to mind that would be like the Great Courses kits that have a book and then some type of DVD or CD or something like that, that perhaps a library would want to circulate the book and then the DVD stuff separately, whereas others, first of all, not very many libraries would have the Great Course kits anyway, but then they would choose to just circulate it as that kit. And so then I guess you would still want to have parts assigned to it. There'd have to be a statement. If this is an item what a library has parts assigned to it, then you're going to want to have parts assigned to it somehow.
I put a couple of items into the chat that were from my list. At least one of those is where there was a book released with a DVD, and we have withdrawn the book, but we're still circling the DVD as a movie. So, but most libraries are going to have the book with a DVD accompanying.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one example. And the other, I think, is maybe a DVD and a CD in the same case. As opposed to everything that's in the procedures guide now is for multiple formats of movies, DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, but I don't think we have anything for a DVD with an accompanying CD or a CD with accompanying DVD.
It just seems like a big well to fall down.
It is.
I think your goal on the cataloging manual has always been for a list of best practices. That's all you can do. You can't dictate to them what they're going to do. We can't even seem to get magazines consistent, but we're doing better. So if the part is descriptive, as you've often said in magazine parts, that's the goal. It's clear to the patrons. And if the next person comes along, although they're not supposed to change it, they could edit it to make it more consistent if they bother to look up the procedure. So sometimes if they find those weird things, they probably would get on the listserv and say, how am I supposed to do this? And you guys could make a suggestion. So how specific do you want to get, Monica?
Well, that's what that. I mean, that's not my decision, but I think that I think that since we started the way that we did, we probably need to provide examples, but if we had
Yes.
started differently, I think maybe if we had from the outset had just said, name them logically, then maybe we wouldn't have so many examples in the procedures guide, because it doesn't matter if my copy, the parts on my copy of Tangled, if those parts look like the parts do on Frozen.
Right. Yeah.
It's just within the specific bibliographic record that they need to be consistent. So maybe it would have been better to not have given specific guidance in the first place and just said, use logical part names. But
More
now,
consistent.
yes.
Yes. Yeah.
But now we're where we are, and so we need to decide how we want to and we need to add different formats, or we are running into different formats.
Right.
And so now we need to decide how the procedures guide wants to describe those.
And I think it's only going to get more diverse, don't you? As odd things are added to the catalogs.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that there are well, more than two, but two things that come to mind here. There are going to be these format types that we know that parts are going to be assigned, and we have dictated a procedure for that, and that's pretty well spelled out. And then there are going to be outliers where parts are an appropriate tool to use, but it's not going to be as cut and dry. And I don't know, for instance, and I hopefully you're seeing on the screen this example of the book and DVD at Jackson County. I don't know that this specific example would need to be spelled out in the procedures guide. There, again, just being a statement, name it logically, because there are going to be most libraries that are not going to assign parts for this because they are circulating the whole thing as this book and DVD. But in the case of Jackson County, they do want to have a part assigned to that, because as it is now, if somebody puts a hold on that and they are expecting this, unless they put an item level hold, it's possible that they're going to get this thing that just has the DVD when perhaps that they want the book. And so if they had the part there that said DVD or DVD only or something like that, then that could be specifically selected. And then the other option being unassigned parts. So people would still be selecting a part or a null part, essentially. But knowing that if there's no assigned parts, then they're getting the regular thing. Is it still confusing? Yes, but that I think that is a circulation or a training thing, because. But I don't know that necessarily needs to be spelled out in the cataloging procedures guide, other than to say there will be outliers, name it logically, so that people are more likely to get the thing that they expect to get.
I think that makes sense, but as Jennifer pointed out in the chat, I mean, we need to like if I were to add a part to this item that we see on the screen, I need to let the other libraries know that they need to add parts. So I think that we could just say, in unusual circumstances, name them logically, but be sure that you contact all the other libraries on the record.
Do you need to do that though? Can you leave it unassigned?
That's what I heard you say that. No, I don't. I mean,
okay,
you could, but I don't think that's a wise idea.
I mean, it's confusing if you do that. So
it's because if you leave a no unassigned, the thing is, what if someone else, when another library got rid of the disc but kept the DVD?
That's true.
So we need, or I mean, got rid of
the disc and kept the book. Yeah.
So I as if there are any parts on the record, I think all the items on the record need to have parts. And the other thing about that is we're trying to discourage the use of no unassigned parts
Mhm.
in all the other records. So we don't want to try and allow it someplace else, because that's just going to be confusing.
And Britta makes a good point. I think it would have to be a combination of parts and alerts because you can't rely on alerts that doesn't affect how holds are placed at all.
That's right. If you're the first one to break up the set or the first one to assign the part, then you're the first one to see the problem or notice the inconsistency. So you could let the other libraries know. They're not going to know that you just assigned a rogue part.
Mhm.
And you'd really help the people that had already broken up the set and did not do anything about it.
True story. Okay, so we've heard from a few people. Does anybody else have input as to whether we just go with kind of a logical coverall statement, or if we want to be more prescriptive, or if there are, I mean, this is a pretty rare case. If there's a more common one that you think still needs added to the procedures guide, does anybody have any thoughts on that?
I think that it would be worth adding in the procedures guide that the first one who assigns parts needs to notify the other libraries that are on that holding, as opposed to prescribing the format of the part name. I mean, that can be a logical thing, but the procedure of contacting should be documented.
Would it also be in the best interest to add it to our little etiquette section, like when we email the listserv?
I think that that's a good idea, that if that would go in an email like that, but I think it would be good to have it in the procedures guide as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so does anyone have suggestions, or would you like me to write up a suggested wording and either have it for the June meeting or have it approved via email before the June meeting?
You are more than welcome to write something up.
Thanks. How kind. Okay. Well, unless somebody has other input, I guess we can move on. Anybody have any other input, questions, comments? Okay. So moving on to controlled vocabulary for video game consoles. I'm gonna have to let somebody else talk about this because I don't know anything about this.
I think was it Britta and Jocelyn that were looking at this?
I was the one who got contacted by a library who was asking about the new consoles.
So I have created new icons that those are available, and I did double check with the game metadata site, and they have not established yet for which one?
The 5.
Was it the PS5? Yeah.
And the Xbox.
Xbox X. So we have the icons, but they don't have the URI.
And that's fine.
There yet. So that's kind of where we're at. It's just waiting for that. I'm not sure.
I think it's dead. But we don't have to have a URI in there as long as it's defined.
As far as an icon,
Yeah.
and a map in the.
That's all we need.
Okay. So that has been done. And this document is something that Anna had started and not completed. So I did try to complete as much as made sense to me. I think there are a few places. I did have a question, and maybe this is for Lynn. We have some types in here. You can see like kit, map, microform. that don't have icons associated with them. Is that something that we need to investigate? Do we want those?
They should have icons. Braille, I know, did. Kit did. Kit looked like a little suitcase.
Okay.
These are the icons Anna designed.
Yeah, I'll have to dig a
Yeah.
little deeper then because they weren't in the folder that I found of.
I can look around too, but I know Kit definitely had one, and it looked like a little suitcase.
Okay.
I'll download the icons that are on the server.
Now it's a yellow cube or something like that.
Now it's the old icons.
Yellow box.
Okay. So I'll do some more research, find it. Xbox Series X is the new generation, yes. And
Yeah.
Xbox One X is, oh. Interesting.
It's Xbox X and PS5.
Now I'm reading Catherine's comment in the chat. Xbox One X is old gen.
And no, it's Xbox One,
Mhm.
and not One X. It's just Xbox One.
And that was like a streaming.
No, Xbox One is its own console system.
Right.
Xbox X, there's two different Xbox X. There's the Xbox Series X, which is the
New one.
new one. There's two different versions. One is the streaming version, and one is the regular
Has a
version.
disk drive.
Say that again, Britta.
It has a disk drive.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
One of them has a disk drive that has the CD drive on it, and one of them doesn't have a CD
And I
drive.
think that we had that conversation being that the streaming service, there's not going to be an item that is going to be in our collection that's circulated because it's they're streaming it.
Yeah, there's
And
the
so that's
Xbox-
why how it is disambiguated.
There's the Xbox Series X, which has the DVD drive, or it's a Blu-ray drive.
It's going to have stuff that is actually
Yeah.
circulatable.
People are buying the discs,
Mhm.
Right.
which is
The
what's already been
Xbox
happening.
Series S, which is
Oh.
the other console, is the streaming console. It's strictly streaming. It doesn't have the actual CD.
That's how the pumpkin turned out. Pumpkin yarn. Oh, yeah.
Oh, Sarah found the Kit icon. She's got a link to the Google Doc.
It's a good color. Yeah. They're all good colors.
I'll go through and I'll merge this stuff
The
into
ones
that,
with
that
little bagels
3.4
and
target.
Oh, yeah.
But
There's the Braille one.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, if it's school.
Yeah.
Kid
Well,
yarn.
just like this red.
Okay,
I
I
like
think
this
Katie,
red a
we're
lot,
we're
yeah.
getting something going
This
on
red
in
is
your
a little
library
bit-
that's not related.
Like a lot of times when
Okay, so I will merge those documents, make sure we get the icons out of this one. Thank you, Sarah, into the 3.4 map.
And the plan is to get those back into the catalog.
Yeah, I thought they were.
No.
We have some, we have some old stuff like that's showing up,
I've been
like
doing kits
the
this morning,
master
and
stuff.
yeah, they're old little orange boxes.
Okay.
That's the old Kit icon.
I'll make sure the correct icons are showing. I may do that tomorrow while I'm sitting at the data center and waiting on a repair file.
Okay. So I think that that is it, Monica.
So when you choose a kit and the conjoined items, I'm not trying to sneak conjoined items in here or anything.
Sure.
But it is the yellow box when you choose that as a kit or a bound volume or your different choices for type. The pure type and conjoined is bound volume, bilingual, back-to-back set, almost is it and a kit and an e-reader preload. So the icon shows up if you choose kit in the conjoined item type. That's the yellow box. That's where I got that. But I remember seeing that painter palette too for kits.
Yeah, it's for whatever reason had an incomplete set of the icons. We'll get
Yeah.
that completed because it's falling back on the defaults in the Evergreen software install. So we'll get those in there. I appreciate that. Okay.
You guys good on that?
Mhm.
We can move on?
Mhm.
Okay. So then we need to discuss series statements and subfields that are in the 8XX fields. And Britta, I think, was going to discuss this for me.
I think we discussed it in the last meeting.
We did. We did. According to the minutes, I did kind of glance at them, Sandra. We did talk about it, and Lynn was going to look into like what Evergreen could hide.
Yeah, I think the ideal was that we would suppress the subfield S, like it would just ignore the subfield S if it's present. And that way it wouldn't mess up the series information.
Apparently I forgot to do that.
That's okay.
I think another part of what was happening was when people import the record or they edit the 800 field, after a day or two, the authorized heading is like attached to it, automatically populates. And then someone else comes in and adds the subfield S. I think that's the problem, because otherwise I don't know if the authorized heading would, like the subfield 0 would pop in if the subfield S was in, because it doesn't match the actual heading. I know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Okay,
The subfield S in the 8XX.
Yeah, we just want it to control on the subfield T. So even if there is an S there, we want it to just ignore that.
Do we want it to?
When it's
Some
authorizing it.
Issues with patrons trying to search for all parts and like audiobooks in the series, and some are under the just the name of the series, and some they're separated when you search by series under series and then spoken word.
Yeah, so ideally it would just, even if there's a subfield S in there, it would not display it and it would not index it.
The other question that I have, because this is something we did discuss at the last meeting, but we've also had another cataloger since the last meeting email Ruth or someone with questions like this. And I also have an email from Catherine, who is on the call, asking about series information for manga that is in Japanese, where the authorized heading is in Japanese, Romanized Japanese, and those have subfield L's for the language. Is that a discussion that we need to incorporate with this subfield S discussion? Because
I kind of have an idea for that when we talk about that in new business.
Okay,
well, that's me to look at.
Okay. We may want to discuss that now, because it doesn't look like that specifically is on the agenda. And
I think that has to do with B on new business.
Well, that's a different story.
Or
that's
A.
a different topic.
Yeah, okay.
Oh yeah, it's not. Okay, yeah. So yes, the question was, the problem is patrons are trying to search manga by series, but most, if not all, manga have an authorized heading in a different language. So they are unable to search with that if the record has a trace, has an 800 field, it will not search under the English name. And I wondered I think maybe the question was if we can like create our own authorized heading for it, but my thought is, since there is an authorized heading, we shouldn't. And then my final thought was, we trace it as normal because it is the correct authorized heading, and then maybe we just add a 490 subfield 0, or 490 with first indicator 0 with the English, because it's on the item, but it's not traced. So when you search for it, it pops up. But also, most manga has volume information in the title, in the 245 field. So having a 490 and 800 is kind of redundant. So if a 490, 800 isn't in the record, they can, if they don't search by series, if they search by title, it'll populate all of the volumes in the series without actually using the 490, 800 field.
So are you saying to remove the 490 and 800?
I think if we I need opinions on that. I don't know if I think it seems, if we have the series name and the numeration in the 245 field, it doesn't seem like we would need the 490, 800 to trace because it's all already there and searchable. But I need other more experienced catalogers' opinions on that, and those who actually, I need more opinions.
I agree with you. I don't think that there needs to be a 490 or an 8XX, especially since the series is normally the title of the manga, and then you have the volume added to it. The only time I could see that it would possibly be necessary is if you have a manga series where they all have different titles, but they're part of an umbrella, and that is incredibly rare. I'm sure it's out there, but I think it's too rare for it to really be much of a consideration for us.
I would agree with all of that. And actually, when Britta, when you were talking, and Lauren, when you were talking, I was thinking, I'm not sure that I generally put 490s in anyway, because like you said, Britta, it's already there in the title. So I don't know that I usually use series information when I'm cataloging graphic novel or manga.
So, but if people do add the 490, 800, kind of like what Sarah says, it's an authorized heading, so it should stay in there because, I mean, it's correct, but maybe just recommend that patrons search by title because manga is so like specific, or I mean, just have them search by title and not specifically by series or even keyword.
I mean, yeah, that's generally how they search anyway. But you're right, having I was looking up some of them, and having the Japanese as the authorized heading makes no sense. Who comes up with these rules?
Guess it's the Library of Congress, but
yeah,
they just don't understand us.
They don't. They really don't. We're very cutting edge at Evergreen, Indiana.
Oh my gosh. Yes, we are.
So I diverted us into manga from audiobooks.
Well, we're still talking about theory, so.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I was wondering if they were kind of go together. How do we want to approach both of these things?
Well, for the subfield S, we just need Lynn to check and see what we can tell Evergreen to do. And
should she look to see if it can suppress anything other than a subfield S? Because I don't know what all legitimate subfields are in the 8XX off the top of my head.
Probably more things than you'd think.
That's what I'm afraid of.
The other ones I really see are the extra ones are the S right now. And where am I?
Yeah, there's a lot of different options for 800
and
field.
I think.
So we can table the discussion about the subfield S until Lynn can find out what if she can suppress everything from display or from collating except for the S, or I'm sorry, except for the
No.
T.
The T, yeah.
The T. Yeah.
It seems-
Someone send me an email to remind me to do that.
Okay.
And it seems like that would really, anything beyond the subfield T would not,
Yeah, I mean, if the whole idea is just to collate things under a series title,
yeah,
you need your A and your T
yeah, and everything else.
is Drek.
The only thing, yeah, I would agree with that. The only question I have is, doesn't the subfield V display? And is that going to be a problem? I mean, so maybe you just let the subfield V display in the 490 and not display it in the 800? I don't know if that's an issue.
I think I kind of get what you're asking, but I know, so like when you search under like an author or series, say you're searching under series name, all the series options that have either been traced or not traced are in the, like say the left side, and the spoken words ones are separate, and the only time you see the numbers on that is when the punctuation isn't correct. And then now I okay. Words are hard, you guys, I'm sorry.
It's okay, breathe.
I don't know if that's the issue.
I say we're talking about an initial search though, an initial series search. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay, not worrying about the facets.
Okay.
Is it, that should have had a question mark at the end of it. We're talking about the initial search, right? Not the facets, correct? Or are we talking about both?
I think the initial search, because if you search just by regular series, anything with the subfield S will not pop up, even though they share the same subfield T.
And but we still should get the facets over here after that initial search. And then if you wanted to do a filtered search by facets, you could still then go into, if you wanted to, your subfield S or your whatever.
Yeah.
If that's something that's generating a facet.
I'm trying to load the catalog. It's a little slow.
Yeah, this catalog just got super slow.
I do love the staff catalog. It's just not very useful for something. Yeah.
Not yet. Yeah.
Okay. Let's look up.
Yeah, it's 11 o'clock, so our servers are going through their usual reboot cycle right now.
That is good to know.
So, I mean, the question is, it collates on the subfield T, but not the V. It just displays the V.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
Yeah. So if you look up Rizzoli and Isles, and you click on that, it gives you every Rizzoli and Isles where that's a subfield T. But it doesn't collate them based on what's in the V. It just displays it.
So then can we table this until Lynn can do some research?
Yeah, we'll look into it some more.
Okay. Do I need a motion to table that?
I'll motion.
Thank you. Can I have a second to table it?
Do we actually need a motion to table something, or?
Well,
is it
that's
just-
kind of why I was asking, but I thought
Oh.
we had in the past, but I don't know.
Okay, because we usually, I mean, we tabled it last month, so we're just tabling it again.
Oh,
So
okay.
It's what we do.
we have lots of tables.
We do.
Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't sure if we did or not,
Yeah,
if that's necessary.
Google says we do.
Okay.
I'll
So
second it then. I unmuted myself so I could second that motion. Yeah.
We
Okay.
have a second already from Jennifer, Steffi.
Sorry, Jennifer.
Okay, so we will table that. Now, the manga series information, do we want to have more discussion on that? Do we want to let follow Britta's advice to not encourage the 490s and the 800s? Can somebody write up procedures for that we can approve at the next meeting? Any thoughts, ideas, answers?
I can work on documentation, or like try and write something up as a recommendation, and then we can discuss, or I'll email it to everyone and work it out through there, and then we can vote.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
think that would be great. You're sounding like a very good expert on that right now.
Yeah, Britta's my series go-to.
Yep.
That's adorable.
Okay, well, thank you.
So this is documentation on just the manga series, that the 800. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Okay, good. Then we finished unfinished business for now. So moving on to new business. Britta, are you going to discuss this series one too?
I don't know if this is one you talking about, but I have strong feelings about it.
Please.
Okay. So, and I think I covered at least her in the session Charles and I did a couple years ago, I think at the annual conference. I was trying to look up information on what to do if there are multiple like authorized headings, if like the Library of Congress or other libraries have like ideas or recommendations on what they do, but I did not. It's hard to listen and Google at the same time. But what I said for our session, when an author has multiple authorized headings, then we put in both authorized headings. And also, especially like with Kristen Behan, our patrons know them as both the Carpathian novels and Dark series. So it makes sense to use both 490s for both of them, and then include the 800.
And the document in the email, when we were emailing about this a month or two ago, your answers and your illustrations were helpful. Is that in the procedures guide currently?
Not that I can recall.
Yeah, I don't
think we discussed multiple headings, or when I don't think we actually discussed when series have authorized, like, I don't think we discussed what this kind of entails.
So we probably should add something in the series information of the procedures guide about how to deal with multiple authorized headings.
I think if we agree on something that is, and that it makes sense, yes, we should.
Well, it's my feeling that one, that makes sense, and two, you've already told everybody to do it that way, so we ought to just...
I think the way you guys told everyone to do it is the way to do it. So I guess it's just a matter of us inserting that into the procedures guide somewhere.
Tell me when to make a motion.
I think that because there are other I think issues we come across when it comes to creating, or not necessarily creating, but putting in series information. I'm going to bring up my Google Drive and see if I can search for my, because, you know, we have authors who I think are part, or who have books that are part of multiple series in their collection. They have authors who change the name, or everyone knows it by one name, but it's unauthorized as another. There's a series is just so
Loose.
convoluted comes to mind.
Mhm.
And there are a lot of different ways to do things, but I would love to do it the right way, because that's, yeah. And I know I can be pretty controlling if you ask any of
Well,
my staff
cataloging is
members.
kind of about being controlling.
Yeah.
So, you know,
They
Well,
call
there's
it
really no
controlled
need to be
vocabulary
rude.
for a reason.
yeah.
It's also about making sure that patrons, it's useful to patrons.
Yes.
So ultimately, if it's useful to patrons, then I think it's correct.
Yeah. And if you have a set of patrons that know it by one name and a set that knows it by another and a set that knows it by both and just isn't sure, it would be appropriate to have both.
But you know,
Okay.
it's convoluted, just like the discussion on DVDs with books with no DVDs.
Parts, yeah.
And trying to get the consistent language, a consistent recommendation, because series definitely impact the patrons also.
Mhm.
It's like requesting something that doesn't have the DVD along with it. So
Yeah, I put a link in the chat to the slides from the presentation.
Give us access, Britta.
I said everyone can view.
It,
Except for me.
except for me, too.
Oh, hold on. I forgot to change it to anyone with a link. Sorry. So sorry.
There you go.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you for that. I'm gonna add this to one of
Are you
my
saying that, like,
drives.
For series, my go-to people for series is Charles and Sarah.
Cool. Thank you for that. So I think that it would, and Britta, you're going to do some language for this, put in the procedures guide, at least a statement related to multiple series names and
Yeah, we can start with that. Yeah.
possible difference in tracing. I guess it would, that is possible as well. So,
That would be wonderful if you would do that, Britta.
and then if you could use Ted Decker's, whatever the name of that, I don't even want to call it a series since they're all like cyclical things with the red, white, and black and green books. And yeah, anyway, just kidding. Don't do that. I don't know that they're traced, because how do you trace that?
Okay, so Britta, you're going to work on language for the next meeting?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
awesome.
Back to the-
So now we can discuss graphic novels from a different point of view.
That's not me, right?
No,
Okay.
but you're welcome to add.
Oh, no, this is me. This is me. You asked me to look this up too.
Did I?
Yes.
Okay, then I guess Britta's going to talk about that.
That's what I interpreted the email.
Oh yes, this is the parts. Yes.
That was last week, Britta. I don't know.
I know. Okay. So more discussion has been, questions have been asked about manga other than series. It's been going around for a while about using individual records for manga or putting them all on one, putting all titles or all volumes on one record. I have looked up a couple different ways other libraries and consortiums do it. I found a presentation from a couple years ago, and a personal communication from Kate James from the Library of Congress said, if so we'll just go with manga because that's what we're talking about. If the manga has a common title and volume number, use a multi-part record. If the manga is a common title volume but also has a part title, then use a single record. That is because it's done both ways, but there are recommendations of when to use what.
So I will say the reason that a lot of them are on their own records is because we did not have parts when we very first started in Evergreen. And we did not know some of these manga series would get to over 100 volumes. So if I had a time machine and I went back and I was, still at Lebanon, I definitely would have used parts for my big manga series. But we've kind of, because it hasn't always been there, and a lot of libraries didn't have that as an option when they migrated in, it's kind of always been a whatever you were doing, if you can keep doing.
Yeah.
I'm envisioning some of these titles, though, that do have 100 volumes or 50 volumes, what that looks like if you do assign them all to parts, and so somebody comes to the hold screen and then they have to go through 100 parts to pick the correct one.
Yeah.
Our magazine's working right now. How many parts are there usually on a record?
52 if it's a weekly.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they don't keep multiple years. Yeah.
Anita.
They've got them clear back to 26 to 1960. So yeah.
I know we keep the previous year, but not when it's like the weeklies, but we also don't use parts on our magazine. Don't come for me.
Also, are your magazines really as popular as your manga?
No. not when a team, not when like a new team, they just all kind of go off for shelf.
Mangas are for younger people. Younger people can figure stuff out.
I seriously just put a bunch of interlibrary loans in. Does that mean I'm younger?
You're young in mind.
Well, you already told us you weren't old enough for the vaccine.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but people thought I was.
Slowly, Sarah. That is one of the concerns I found in my research.
Oh, good gravy.
Yeah, I know Evergreen sometimes stumbles when it has a lot of holdings.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I know a few years ago, we had to have our Time and People magazines on separate records because there were so many holdings. Have those been combined?
We still have our Indianapolis Star microfilm on separate records because there's like over 1,000 holdings on just one of those records. And no, I'm not combining those.
Well, right. And so like we Evergreen couldn't handle a record with that many holdings. So if we put a manga on one record that has 100 volumes and 20 of us have it, that's a lot of holdings.
I mean, am I dating myself? Are they still like that long series wise? Or is that kind of unusual?
Some of them are. I think. I don't know. I'm older than you.
I mean, I
Jocelyn.
think we have some at least in
about.
the 70s and 80s.
I mean, it's less for the end user though. If it's over 100 volumes, that's a lot of records to page through to try and find a specific volume. So there's that. I mean, it really clutters up the database.
That is true. I hadn't thought about though until Britta was reading her recommendation, her email there, that a lot of mangas in a series, the individual volume has its own title. So
no, I don't. Well, maybe
graphic novels like Marvel and DC and stuff. Those
no, a lot of my manga do.
Yeah, and I'm not sure that those are the ones that are really the issue because that would be documented and possible that they would be searched for that way. But it's the ones that don't that I think are the bigger issue. I could be wrong on that though.
Yeah, if it has an individual title, that probably needs to be on its own record.
Even
if it's a huge series, because then you'd have to have a record with 505 titles.
It's actually, Jocelyn, I probably misspoke. It's not a different title, it's a different subfield P. The subfield A is the same, but then they have their own little title per.
Oh, it's like a sub-series?
No. It's like they name a chapter. It's like a chapter having a name. It's they're all under, say, I don't know, Zelda, but book one is the crash and book 2 is the survival. But they're all Legend of Zelda, the series.
But yeah, they have individual titles. Zelda's the series, but they each have individual titles.
Yes.
So it's kind of like kids' books, how, you know, people sometimes transcribe the series title followed by the title of that particular book.
That's true. But I don't know. I guess a lot of times it's done as a subfield A and a subfield P instead of a subfield A and a subfield B. And
Well, because it's not a subtitle.
right. But I figure when people are putting series information in erroneously, a lot of times they're putting it in as a B, but maybe not. I don't know. But I think that
those because those should be searchable under the individual title. So to me, those, you would not put those all on one record.
I would agree, and that's what Britta's suggestion thing said.
I agree, Sarah. They are, yes, parts have been, I think, the bane of our existence for a few years now. And then I think a thought I had when we started the DVD part thing, Anna kind of had like a super cat power to add the parts to all of the items on like a record.
Mm-hmm.
Is that, if we were to move forward with something like this, is that something we would think about doing? Is that something that could be useful?
So I'm going to say yes, with this caveat that Anna didn't give any indication whatsoever about what point she was at in any of these projects.
Mm-hmm.
And so the technical answer is yes. Like even the parts thing, the reason that there's been no communication on that is that there have been so many other things, and pulling apart and trying to reverse engineer to get to a start point with zero information has been just a no-go. I mean, not even to the point of nightmare, because it can't even be conceptualized yet. So technically, yes, that can definitely be part of it and should be part of it. What that actually means, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Given that we probably still have quite a few libraries and catalogers that are still trying to add parts to their DVDs, Blu-ray, 4K, is this something that if we decide, I personally don't like this idea at all, just I think it's going to be incredibly confusing for the end user. And
you mean to
force
the whole parts for manga?
Yes, sorry. Yeah. Also the whole concept that Monica brought up, where if we've got, 2,000 holdings on one record, how long is that going to take for it to load? That gives me so many misgivings. But if we do decide to go ahead with it, can we maybe wait a little bit, push it off for maybe a year, just because we're already asking so much of the catalogers with the DVD parts, that then also, or 5 years. Yes, Sarah, that's totally fine too. Giving them a breather, giving them a break of, yeah, you're working on this big project, but you also have this big project to work on too. Can we just push it back a bit?
Lauren, I think we have to wait. I don't think that there's any choice in that.
Okay.
I think if we don't do anything, we'll be fine, because both options are being used anyway. And just telling them maybe, hey, yes, it's doable this way. If you want to put them all on one record, then you need to be responsible about adding parts, or just letting them know that this is okay. Because I think that's what the main question was at the beginning, was they didn't know what to do, if they should put them all on one record or if they all need to have their individual records. And I think having us tell them that officially that it is okay to do both, and that's fine. But I agree. I don't know if doing the whole project, while sounds like it is doable, it's not necessary.
Right.
I would agree. I think that what is happening now is working, so maybe not great, but sufficiently. And we can just continue as is and maybe discuss this again later in the future when one, we have more time to do it, like Lauren says, but two, when maybe if it becomes an issue again. So maybe it's just comes down to a matter of sending an email to the list very clearly stating that you can do it either way and describing both ways, and letting people continue as is.
Yeah, I think it's good that we are aware of the concern from catalogers. We are aware of it, so we can kind of keep it in the back of our minds for any issues that might arise in the future.
Well, this is Mary Kay, the cataloging library director, and parting DVDs takes time for me because I have to have everything else done. It's a side job. If I have a crisis like I have right now I've been in and out of this meeting dealing with NIPSCO and natural gas, it's something that goes by the wayside, but also it gives us time to get our patrons used to it before we go to the next step. Because we've had a dickens of a time with patrons who make their own holds, place their own holds, learning about parts and getting frustrated over parts. So keeping manga separate, I think, is the best way to go at this point.
It may be that this could be something that during one of those interest groups that we could discuss as well. But I don't, as you say, there are so many things going on, so many projects going on. Maybe it's worth using some of that language from the clarification, Britta, to put maybe a note in the procedures guide. I'm not sure about that, and that would be up to the committee as well. But beyond that, I agree with just holding off indefinitely, if not forever. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fine.
Would someone be willing to write up an email that we could send to the list describing when it can be used or how to use each one and letting them know that that's okay? Maybe write that up and send it to committee so we can review it before it's sent to the listserv in general.
Hey, Britta, I know you're already writing a bunch of stuff. Could you send me the information that you looked up and I'll write it up?
Okay, yes, I am happy to.
Thanks.
That sounds great. I was just gonna.
I know we're like Britta, but not Britta.
Thank you, Britta, and thank you, Lauren.
Keith brings
Yes,
up a
thank
good
you,
point too.
Yeah, you would need them on separate records to do it that way.
Right. You
Yeah.
can't really
Go
use
through.
baskets if you're
Yeah.
talking about parts. So, which is something that we really want patrons to be able to do, is use baskets.
I love the basket.
Me too.
We've actually had a number of patrons call and ask about them lately.
About baskets.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is a perfect time to show that to let you know that we discovered a bug. But yeah. Let's just not talk about it right now.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Lauren, for volunteering. Britta, thank you for helping and apparently doing research that I asked you to do.
If you didn't, I read it wrong, so it's on me.
No, I probably did. I just don't know.
Monica's
I just
so
wanted to
mean.
dump the whole agenda on you. That was all. So moving on, the resignation, Susan Jones sent an email from Danville, sent an email a while back saying she was resigning from the cataloging committee. I think she had other commitments. So I wanted to make note.
That's
her resignation.
allowable.
Right.
That was an option.
Not for you.
No, Mary. Okay.
If it
Fine.
wasn't out, we would have kept Sarah a couple years ago.
Just a
And
heads
then-
up, I am retiring in a couple years.
Eventually. Not yet, Mary Kay,
Future plans. What are those?
right? So I wanted it to be noted in a meeting that she had resigned, and I'm not sure why Ruth put that #1, that link in there.
Oh, just because it was in an outline, because I wanted to make sure to have the link to the nomination form. We are taking nominations for committees right now
Okay.
through the 15th. And so if there's somebody that, whatever the heck that is, that you would like to nominate to the cataloging committee, or this is one of those committees that doesn't really have end times, but this may be an appropriate time to bring that up, that people can join the cataloging committee if they're interested, and we're taking those nominations through the 15th.
But we'll take nominations for the cataloging committee anytime, won't we?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay,
But here's the
Okay.
form.
but there's the form. Thank you.
Yep. That's it.
Okay. Okay. I believe, Josephine, was this something that you were looking at with the email clarification for audiobook parts?
Yes,
Would you mind talking about that?
sure. We discovered, it's been going on for a while. I emailed Anna about it and then Ruth. There is a library who is applying parts of all discs to audiobooks. I did send an email directly to them, saying, parts are confusing, and recommending, not to do that. I didn't get a response, and they're still continuing to do it. Thankfully, they don't have a lot of audiobooks, but if you look at, I looked at one yesterday, and there were like 5 holds on a title, and like half were on the part, which only one library has, and the other were title holds. So I don't know, maybe an email clarification again might do something. I just, it would be nice if holds would not get messed up because of that practice.
Is there any situation that somebody can, because I'm not thinking of one, but we all know how my brain works. Is there any situation where parts are appropriate on an audio book? And I can think of a couple now that you say
Yes.
that when they're
Yeah.
really long
Yeah.
and you
If
do
they're
it that
really,
way.
If you
really
were
long.
splitting up a large
Diana
item,
got Mhm.
And actually, Ruth, audiobooks are, parts on audiobooks are covered in the procedures guide.
They are, yeah.
So it is a legitimate use, just it's rare.
Mhm.
Josephina, I would wonder about an email to the list would be fine, but I would wonder about someone calling the library specifically, whether that's Ruth because she's the trainer, whether that's me because I'm the cataloging
Or
committee
we
chair,
don't we still have regional contacts for,
We
or
do.
that.
We do.
yeah.
Are you, Josephine, are you her regional chair?
I'm not actually.
Then yeah, maybe you contact her person, and ask them if they would call or email her about that.
Yeah, I just didn't feel comfortable calling myself, but yeah,
I understand that.
I am all for emails.
Yeah, but
I
if
do-
they're not replying to
hard.
emails, that's the
Exactly.
That's
thing.
not,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
not
agree.
good.
So this is on the communications page, the regional support person, I think it's listed as. So if you see your name there, probably coordinate with Josephine off of the call about who.
yeah, I'll
Yeah.
email the contact person then.
And there's the actual libraries with their contacts. So in the next tab off of that.
So yes, Josephine, if you, you would do that, and then do you want us to send an email in general to the list, or do you think that it's one specific library and contacting that one specific library hopefully will take care of it?
Yeah, I mean, that's the only one we've really noticed, though, though there was some confusion a while back on the listserv too about when you do split something up, do the other libraries then apply all discs to their, as their parts? There was some confusion there too, so maybe some clarification about that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of like we were talking about with the parts on mixed media earlier.
Right.
As soon as someone applies a part, then everybody needs to have a part.
Should we
Right,
just,
and it would be.
should
I'm
we just
sorry.
have like general language that you should contact other people if you do have to part for any kind of resource, whether it's audiobooks or mixed media or whatever?
If it's something not movies.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah,
Well, I mean, because
Jennifer,
you
and
can't
that's
say
part
you
of
have
it.
to contact them for anything with parts, because then you would have to do it for every single DVD.
Right. No. Yeah.
Right.
Things that are not already outlined in the procedures guide.
And then maybe they think twice about assigning parts. If they had to, if they had to email everyone it affected, maybe they'd be like,
You must take the whole Outlander book and have it done in whatever that time period is.
Sandra, are you suggesting we put that in the procedures guide, or just putting that in an informational email? What is your suggestion there?
I would think to put it in the procedures guide
Okay.
to make it official.
Okay. I think that's a good idea. Did we,
I think someone, was it you, Monica, who was going to come up with language on how to
multimedia?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will include something about that with the mixed media, but I might also, maybe we'll have it in two places, in the mixed media part and just kind of in the part section in general.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, I will add that to my to-do list and we'll write something out for that. Okay, cataloging hotspots. This was something that I ran into. I emailed the list. Someone else replied and said, hey, I emailed the list about the same thing and didn't hear anything. We're on our second set of hotspots. We got some a year or two ago, and now we've gotten a second set. And they are both from T-Mobile, but they're different models, different companies. And I wasn't sure how to do that so that I could, so that my holds could be fulfilled properly. So when I sent the email to the list, there was some replies, and Sarah suggested what she did. And so I took a note out of her book and tried to, I made a record just for mobile hotspots and put 246s in for both brands that I have. And then eventually I was able to move all my old hotspots to my new record. That's what I did, and I appreciated Sarah's suggestion. But I know that there are other libraries out there who have the same issue, and they said, well, we just put it on the other record, even though it wasn't the same, because they wanted to fulfill holds. Is this something we should discuss? I mean, we've all found workarounds for it. Some of them are less cataloger approved than others.
Well,
but is that okay?
Ultimately, who are the records for? They're for patrons, right? To find and be able to place holds, and they're just for patrons in your communities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's the other thing, and I don't know if this matters, but so now I created that record, and now the only holdings on that record are Jackson County's. But some records, multiple libraries have holdings on them, but they don't necessarily all match the record.
To
At the
me,
beginning-
equipment records are kind of whatever's going to work for you.
I think that's where we got into trouble. At the beginning, we were looking for somebody that had a hotspot MARC record and hoping that it was the same model. And so we attached to that library's MARC records. And then when we got our second generation of hotspots in, we really needed to keep that holds list active. I mean, talk about a hotspot, hot topic. That was it, man. They needed those hotspots or we're leaving. So we developed more of a generic hotspot record, just like an equipment record, just, you know, computers or something, projectors, going the way of all kinds of different equipment.
I think that's how I would do it too. And if things like serial numbers or models are important, you can always put those in, you know.
When I mentioned
notes.
that in one of our area cataloging meetings, one of the other libraries said they had better coverage for some of their patrons in an area. So they specifically wanted one of the particular brands of hotspot. If that is the case, if you find that out from your patrons, a person could certainly do a part and say, this is the T-Mobile, this is the, you know, whatchamacallit. And they could specify, they could specify the hotspot that they wanted.
And Anita put that in the reply to my email to the list, and that was a great idea. Thank you, Anita. And I talked to people at my library to see if that was, because we do have some coverage issues in our area. As yet, I'm not aware that that's an issue. However, but if people are going to use parts for that, then they need to contact everybody on the record.
Yeah,
that's right. That's
so,
right.
Which is why it would probably be best if, like I said, my record is just JCPL. It might be best if every library had their own hotspot record instead of any records that have hotspots at 12 different libraries.
I agree.
I think that's appropriate. And you could always put, you know, a 500 field explaining the difference in coverage between your different models. If that would help a patron choose the right model when they go to place a hold.
And that library was not an evergreen library. And I was thankful for that because I didn't want to go through parts. I mean, I don't have a problem assigning parts. That's simple, but it's another step for the patrons and they just want a hotspot.
Right.
We don't have a coverage issue. They just want the next available hotspot. Yeah. Okay, I hung around for that. I've got to go, ladies. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you,
Enjoy
Anita.
the sunshine.
Appreciate your help.
Bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. So anyway, I didn't know if this was anything we even needed to talk about, or needed to discuss at all, or put in the procedures guide. Do we need guidance in the procedures guide on hotspots?
Would it be kind of a best practices suggestion just to make your own record for your own hotspots?
Yeah, that's all I would say about it.
And if you need assistance, contact the cataloging
Yeah.
committee.
I mean, you can look at other people's records.
I was gonna
for
say, there's nothing to say
inspiration.
you don't like.
Copying and pasting works
Use
great.
your flat text editor.
So do we want to, the committee's stance to be to recommend every library have their own hotspot record?
I think they'd be happier in the long run.
So
did.
if the committee is going to recommend that as a best practice, not a requirement, then what, we send out an email and tell people that? Or we put it
Sure,
in the procedures guide?
intrepid leader.
Well, no, I mean, should it be in the procedures guide if it's just a best practice?
I think maybe, well, both.
Yeah, I think it's worth just saying this is a best practice in the procedures guide
Okay.
and an email
Yeah, and both.
and
You
smoke
can do both.
signals.
Yeah.
Okay, and I don't mind that. I didn't know if it was necessary to put in the procedures guide, if we just wanted a best practice. But yeah, I think you're right. I think that's a good thing.
There are people that just won't read an email.
There are people that aren't going to read the procedures guide.
Exactly. And so if we can have it in both places, it would
Right.
hopefully more rather than fewer people.
Okay.
We could also bring it up in the interest groups.
Absolutely.
Does anyone want to volunteer to write that email and that stuff for the procedures guide, or should I?
I'm busy, sorry.
Yeah, I know you are. I wasn't going to ask you, Britta.
Well, I guess I could do it since I brought it up. So
Yeah,
Oh,
Sam.
thank you.
Sandra.
best practice.
Thank you, Sandra.
No problem.
Oh, that's a
and,
good idea, Sarah.
Yes, Sarah.
And so the last thing on under new business is OCLC encoding level changes. Jocelyn, do you mind talking about that?
Yeah, OCLC is doing away with all of the letter encoding levels that were really just supposed to be for inputting into OCLC directly. So there's no longer going to be K and I. They're just going to be, was it 3 and blank. So basically what it affects us is there's no need to go back and like change encoding levels in the records we already have, but we do need to update the cataloging template.
I was gonna say, this is a templates issue. Okay.
Yeah, so in the past, I think Jason did this. I don't remember who.
We'll take a look at it. We'll figure it out in the office. So
I think that there were, I've noticed some other things in the templates that could stand.
Yeah, it might be a good time to just look at
just do
all
a
of
full
them
audit
and see what else needs to be changed.
Because there are some indicators and stuff that are not right. And so, yeah. So what, Jocelyn, what do you recommend putting in the templates for the encoding level?
Well, what they want us to use now, which is nothing if it's full level.
Okay.
And minimal level is 7.
Would we, let me see.
Okay.
In the template itself.
In the template itself, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
But since we are going to be changing the templates, we might as well take a look and see what else, if there are any new 33X fields that need to be added. I never use templates since I catalog directly into OCLC, so it's been a while since I've even loaded one.
Okay.
But we can certainly need to look through them all and make sure they're.
I'll put that on my list to begin that process.
Thank you. Jocelyn, do you have anything else to say about that?
No.
Okay, thank you. I think that's it. I was going to say, if we had time, we could have talked about conjoined parts, but Anita left, so I guess we can't talk about conjoined parts.
Maybe that's the key to never talking about conjoined parts, is just to go as long as we can until she leaves.
Until Anita retires. Okay, so does anybody else have anything else to bring up, ask, say, share? Okay, then our next meeting is June 3rd at 10 o'clock. We will, my guess is it will be via Zoom, but we'll probably be in touch between now and then as to whether there's going to be any in-person meetings.
Okay.
And I guess we can adjourn.
I'll motion. Britta will motion.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
You as well.
Bye.
Take
Thank
care.
you. I have
Be
to.